a hard no, then a maybe. That's just going to be a no.
Yeah.
So, so all good. So yeah, so Mark is obviously not on the call, but his note taker is. And we also have Lee, who we're not sure is actually on the call or not today. And the lovely Louise, from whatever part of the world you're in this week.
I'm still in the UK
Um,
this week.
nice. Okay, very good. So small group, I guess, either the people that usually are on this call that have had this topic in the past are just like, oh, we've covered it and we're good. But like G, the others are interested in continuing this conversation. So I'm glad. Thank you guys. And G, if you have to jump off, no big deal.
Thank you.
So yeah, so this is just an open discussion. I don't have anything prepared for this necessarily because we have talked about it before. It's something that we either do or don't incorporate into our repertoire when we are working with clients. It's something that I at least bring up with my clients at some point, and I get a feel for whether or not this is something they want to really think about or not. For anyone who might watch this video later, B2B is just business to business rather than B2C, which is business to consumer. I think B2B is more difficult than B2C, but I've worked in both in terms of marketing. And I think it is harder to address and nail down when it comes to B2B than B2C. Because with B2B, you're targeting a specific group of people in a specific industry, whereas B2C, you could be targeting anyone or not. I mean, B2C, it depends on the product, it depends on the industry, but B2C is more public. You have a wider audience. B2B is less so. So
It's
I'm
funny
just curious.
because for me, it's the other way around. I find it much easier to go B2B than B2C. But I think that's probably because we have more practice. We just, we haven't had that many B2C clients. It's most of them have been B2B. So it's just the way the way it crumbles cookie wise, really. It just didn't work out that way. But
Right.
yeah, I find B2B much easier. And I find, defining ICPs makes the work a lot easier, rather than, working against a huge, great cohort, which, may have various personas within them, and you may need to sort of create more nuanced messaging to address those cohorts. But also I think you have a clearer reason as to why a B2B buyer is buying than you have B2C. The need identification, the compulsion to buy, I think is easier to define.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, because the people that are buying are looking for something really specific, and there's probably only a few people that can deliver, or a few companies that can deliver that very specific need that they have.
Well, yes and no, because the thing is, B2B, oftentimes, well, B2B, you're spending somebody else's money, right? B2C, you're spending your own money,
Right.
right? So when you're spending somebody else's money, part of that communication is based on risk aversion. What you're selecting to buy. I often say this. I probably said it in a video. In B2B, people don't buy the best product. They buy what they see as being the least risky product.
True.
Because if it's B2C, I mean, if I take my example, right, if I buy some crap on Amazon, right, and it's usually crap,
Right.
drop ship from China, nonsense from Amazon, right? And I spend my $20 or $50 or whatever it is, and it finally turns up like 3 weeks later, and it's usually junk, right? And it's like, more fool me. Okay, $50 wasted, but that'll teach me. Slap on the wrist, don't do that again. stop buying stuff on Amazon when you're drunk. Not a good look, right? But
Right,
B2B,
the
if
risk is very low with that.
right, B2B, if you're put in charge to actually specify a product or a service to be integrated within a business and it doesn't work or it doesn't meet specs, and that's your ass,
Yeah.
right? You know, you could be reprimanded, even. You could be fired. And even if you don't get fired, for the rest of your time that you're at that company, you will always be that person who bought that crap that we're having to live with, right? So moving up the totem pole, oh, you can't say that anymore, can you? Moving up the corporate ladder, um, is going to be that much harder.
Right. Ooh, I need to turn off one of my windows. Sorry.
Okay, what was that?
So that's a software that anytime there's a text message going back and forth,
Oh,
it
okay.
makes a noise, and however loud my computer is, that's how
Oh,
loud
right.
that is. Anyway, it's off now.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you
Yeah.
know, in terms of, to get to the subject, empathy. Well, for firstly, all marketing should be empathetic, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to put yourself in the shoes of your customer.
Mhm.
But in terms of B2B, firstly, yes, they've got a particular spec that they need to meet when they're shopping around for solutions. But if you're not one of the top five category players in a particular space, you need to look like the least risky choice. If you think about lawyers, corporate lawyers, okay, you're looking for a corporate lawyer, so you tap in whatever you're looking for, right, on Google, or other search engines are available, and it comes up, and you make a short list, and you look at like the top five um, websites that sort of meet your requirements that you're shortlisting. 10 will get you five that, in terms of how those websites look, they'll all be pretty grey and dull and boring and dark colors, gold lettering, and faceless people in boring looking suits, right? There won't be a bright pink website, will there?
No.
And even if there was, sorry, even if there were, then they probably wouldn't get much business, because risk aversion. You don't want to get your fingers burnt. So the challenge is there to stand out by not standing out, sort of thing, isn't it? You want
Mhm.
to be differentiated, you want to be distinctive, but not to
Want
the
to be taken
point where
seriously.
you're alienating.
Yeah.
Mr. F, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. Sorry for interrupting. My Zoom, my computer went mute. And then it came on it.
Very
And
good.
it was fine.
You've been practicing that for the last 15 minutes, haven't you?
Well, we were talking about you and the arch over your head.
Yes, that arch, that bridged arch, it's exactly framing your head, isn't it? Absolutely perfectly. Pixel accuracy. It was very impressive.
That looks like a big hat. I'll just lift that up.
Yeah.
How are you all keeping? Are you well?
Great. Yeah,
Really
you?
well, really well.
Yeah, very good indeed. Sorry I was a bit late. I do apologize. So just one of those things tech wise.
Yeah, no worries. It happens.
And I haven't been to one of these in ages.
I know. Well, it's good to hear your voice. It's good to hear that accent again.
If you can understand it, that is. Sorry, Louise.
Fine, fine. I've got you.
Sorry, G. Go ahead.
I didn't want to I didn't want to hijack the hijack the session, but yeah,
Really?
okay. Maybe I did.
Just kidding. No, just kidding. No,
You
but
know
you're
me
right.
too well, Mrs. S. This is not good.
It's all
Yeah.
good.
So what was I saying? Ooh, Mrs. So, where was I? I was talking about risk aversion, and so what you're trying to do, you've got share of voice, right? And that's an unwritten, well, it's not an unwritten rule, but it's a rule of marketing, and there's plenty of empirical evidence going back like 100 years, probably more. In that is the brands with the biggest market share are the ones that get talked about most. So when you're looking at pretty much any category, the top 5 players don't really change month to month, year to year. They're pretty
Mhm.
much the same.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is get salience to get mental availability so that when a buyer is ready to buy, when they are looking to make that selection out, we want to be in that consideration space. We want to be one of those 5. That's all we
Right.
can hope for,
Right.
right? And so
Exactly.
by doing that, what we're trying to do is not be so out there that it creates discomfort, that if it all goes wrong, you know that old saying, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, right? It's like 50 years old or 70 years old or something, right? And it is very much that. I back in the days of mainframes, people didn't buy IBM because they were the best computers or they were the fastest chips or they were the best value or the best price or anything else. They bought them because everybody else bought them.
You're consistent.
And so, as per the phrase, you wouldn't get fired if it didn't work. Now, if you went outside of that and you bought something else that may be better, faster, cheaper, all the rest of it, if it all worked, great. But supposing deployment went wrong, which is outside of your purview, right? But somebody came in and they used a hammer instead of a screwdriver or something and basically screwed up the installation. Nobody would say, "Ah, yeah, well, installing this particular machine is a bit different from installing an IBM machine, so we need to sort of cater for the vagaries of putting this one." No, it'll be, see, if you bought IBM, it'll be in by now. It will be working. It's your fault, right? And you'd have to take the blame. So
Yeah.
this false sense of security, people don't want to. They don't want to be saddled with buying a lemon, right? So our job is to give them that confidence in buying outside of what is the de facto standard within the industry, isn't it?
Yeah. So how does empathy play a role in that, in terms of building stronger
It's
relationships?
market orientation. It's market one-on-one, isn't it? Understand your customer, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's not coming from the perspective of the marketer or the brand. It's coming at the perspective of the customer. And pricing is a very good one. For an economist, pricing is a number, while for a marketer, or certainly a customer, pricing is a feeling, isn't it? Have you noticed? Are you familiar with the amygdala? I don't want to go too crazy on brain
Yes.
theory and stuff. You know about the amygdala, right? Old lizard brain, oldest part of the brain. Okay, it can't it it can't understand speech. It understands. It's concerned with the fight or flight response, right? And there've been studies done where they've surveyed a bunch of buyers who've been subjected to sales pitches who didn't buy. And they came back and they said, well, the offer was great. The need was there. Why didn't you buy? And most often the response is, well, it didn't feel right. The word they used was feel. Now that's the amygdala talking. It's very strange to use the word feel, isn't it? Really, if you think about it.
People don't
It
associate that with
feel
numbers, feeling and numbers.
right. But
But
pricing is a feeling, you know. Is that too expensive? What do you do? That 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 assessment that you make in your head, we talk about going with our gut, we're actually going with our amygdala. But it's a feeling. So if we extrapolate that from empathy, what we're trying to do is put ourselves in the buyer's shoes to understand what their possible reactions are to various points within the funnel as we're migrating down, and what emotional reactions they could be getting from that.
Right,
And
right,
then having answers depending on what those emotions are going to be. Right.
right.
So if it's a pricing issue, for instance, usually it means that we haven't explained our value properly, doesn't it? That's
Mhm.
usually the problem. That's why it's
Does it
seen as
also
expensive.
does it also depend? I'm just thinking in B2B where you've got multiple stakeholders. So the person who needs that solution, all of the empathy language could be like, yes, 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 this is going to solve my need, but now I need to get my manager to sign this off or the finance team to sign this off. And sometimes, like you said, the finance team, they are just looking at the numbers and it's too expensive and they don't even care about how well the value is perceived if the numbers are expensive. Like if the numbers are more than their budget, like
Absolutely.
then
I think, no,
there's
I think you're
almost
right,
like a
Louise.
part where the empathy piece can only get you so far, and then if you can't get the buy-in beyond that, I don't know if empathy counts there or if it's too far.
Well, here's
I
the
think
thing. Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry, G, I just want to say,
no, go
like, there's
ahead.
a bridge. There's a bridge from like the marketer to the middleman to the decision maker and the finance department. So you have to kind of jump over that person to speak their language. So you can make this person easy, you know, make it easy for them to translate what you're saying to what they need to hear.
Mm.
And so you're not, so marketers have to be multi-layered in our messaging. And, you know, we have to be able to describe things and make it seem beneficial to the decision maker, not just the person who brings in the idea at the company. So we have to think about things from so many different directions. You know, that's why user experience is really important. That's why we have to be very clear on our websites and our messaging and make it easy for people to buy and tell them what you want them to do and tell them what we're going to do for them if they push this button. And how it's going to make them look good to their superiors.
I'm just going to jump because I mean it's directive selling, so it's direct them to a path that you want them to take, and I think that's such a good point. And also what Louise said there before, as well as what you said as well, Kathleen, with yourself and all of you, really, it's sort of that middleman. Is you get to that point where they've got a budget in their minds, the finance department, that they can only stick to that budget, but if it's great for the team and it fixes loads of issues for them and fantastic support and it gives them extra business, they'll only stick to that budget. So there's a lot methodical behind it and that side of it as well. I think it's an important part is that it's the journey that they take of their need and want of what they want to gain from it. And if they're in the right place at the right time, what they want, they'll spend the money on it, they'll buy it, no matter what it is.
Yeah, it's always about value versus cost.
What I was going to say is that and it's a good point that you raised, Louise, about the multiple stakeholders, is that what you're actually doing is selling to multiple people, and your messaging and your counter arguments need to be shaped for the person that you're in front of. So the one who's specifying the feature sets, for example, those ones are one set of messaging, but quite often, I mean, from our perspective, when we have clients, when they're speaking with customers, they do 3 or 4 different presentations depending on who's in front of them. So you do the features, advantages, benefits, the usual crap that we all know for these, for this product specifier. Then you'll need to do another one to their manager, which may be sort of more ROI based. And you'll do yet another one to the finance person when you're to explain to them the difference, that even though we're in the same category, the pricing is not necessarily parallel because of these reasons, unless we get into procurement. Now, if there's procurement involved, then all bets are off. Because, and there again, this is just my experience, and it's probably way off base, but it's happened enough times for there to be a trend here. You play that procurement game, you're playing with a loaded deck because they already know who's going to win the game, right? RFPs, RTTs, RFIs, procurement, it's all fixed. It's all absolute friggin' bullshit, right?
It's annoying, and that's why I don't deal with RFPs.
Total bullshit. They have to do it for governance reasons, for
Tell it the way it is, Jay. You
reasons.
just tell it the way it is.
It's absolute. Sorry for sitting on the fence here, Lee, but you know I have to go right. It's absolute friggin' bullshit because they know exactly.
Different word there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're going to buy way up front. Okay, and the specs when they're putting together the RFP are weighted for the solution they already want, but they have to do this bullshit three quote salsa to actually get past the door, and then procurement come in and screw you down on price because procurement don't want to give it to you because they already know who they're going to give it to.
Yeah, but they make you jump through hoops just
and
to
then you lose out.
up.
Or you drop your trousers so far down that you don't actually make any margin on the whole thing, and then you'll ruin the day every single time you get a support call because you're losing even more money on the deal.
One in too low and getting too high.
Exactly. Absolutely. And we've 16 years, we have never done an RFP, never going to play that game. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you can't see the value that we're bringing, then we failed as a marketing agency. You shouldn't use us. Bugger off, go somewhere else. Right? If you can't see why you need to use us as opposed to somebody else, we're no good for you. You're seeing us as the same as everything else. You're comparing us with other providers, and you can't see the difference. In which case, we don't want your business.
And that means we're targeting the wrong customers because we're not even playing in the same sandbox. Like, why are we even in the sandbox together? You know, you're not a good customer for me. I'm not going to deliver what you need right off the bat, you know? And we need to be able to identify those red flags too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I started my marketing career in corporate, and now I'm, I work with SMEs. And so I know that whole corporate red tape, everyone justifying their salary BS. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it anymore. It's inefficient. Companies waste so much money on those games and on rent that, I'm not going to convince them to do anything that I think is good for their company when they're already starting from a point where they're wasteful. So, how do you find empathy for that? Obviously, I find that very difficult.
No, I think you're right, and I think that also comes down to the entrepreneur mentality, or maybe the early stage entrepreneur mentality, which is to just say yes to everything, right? Any opportunity that comes up, we just say yes, and you try to make it work. Which is, I think we've all been there, and we've all had our fingers burnt where we've taken on opportunities which have turned out to be absolute clusterfucks, right?
Yep, and we've had a call or two about that too. How do you fire a client? How do you take on, how do you get rid of them when you've let them in by accident,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God.
This has been interesting because I'm trying to think about this in terms of like me as my service to a business. Sometimes I'll work with SMEs, kind of like sole traders, solopreneurs, who that's almost like selling into a consumer because it is their money.
Right.
Then working with bigger companies, maybe like 1 million to 10 million turnover. And then when I was employed, I was in like some big corporate. So I'm kind of thinking about it like across the scale. And when we were talking about that stakeholder thing, and I'd had an experience recently where I'm pretty sure the finance people had gone, Louise is too expensive, let's get rid of her. Like, why are you spending that much on external resource?
Wow.
Instead of looking at the person that I was working with and the value that I was bringing and what I was enabling. But for me, once that seed has been sown at senior management level, that's time for me to get out.
Yeah, I think so.
So and it happens somewhere else as well. The MD was like definitely wanted to keep me, was fighting for the cost. Then asked me to bring my prices down on something, and then in the same breath tells me that they're all booked on a first class flight to America for a show.
Yeah.
So you're like, yeah, I'm not quite sure this is where you should be saving money on the budget, to be fair. So that's been a really interesting, conversation for me to think of there.
So sorry, Louise, just, I mean, I
Mm.
presumed you never judge a book by the cover. You know, with Kimberly being over the pond in the States and whatever, I presumed that you were in the States as well. So are you in a marketing company working for yourself now then? Just so again,
Yeah, so
sorry, Kimberly and Jay, it's, you know, yeah.
I'm in the UK. So I work for myself as a freelance marketing manager.
Oh, okay.
So I've worked in all different size companies, and then I tend to do kind of workshops, training, one-to-one for kind of self-employed people.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
So solopreneurs were based around, is that more sort of Midlands way or Leeds way?
Yorkshire, yeah.
Yorkshire. I heard a little twang there slightly, I thought then, so yeah.
But next month when you see me, I'll be coming from Cyprus. So I'm
You're gonna
doing
change your accent.
try, yeah. I'm going in search of some sunshine because the drizzly weather's just.
Well, welcome to Scotland. We get that nearly 24/7, so it's okay.
Vacuuming has finally stopped. So yeah, so I think we should just have like a whole discussion, one whole meeting just on where we are and why we live where we are and why like Louise, we move around and we can't take it for very long in certain places.
Yeah.
Sorry, G, what were we gonna say?
No, I wasn't going to say anything. No, it was just so Louise, you're moving to Cyprus, are you?
I'm going for 3 months. So because
okay.
of the whole Brexit palaver, you can only be there for
of course, 90 days in 180.
90 days in 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was there for 3 months, September to December. I've been back in the UK for 3 months, staying in Airbnbs. It's going to get expensive because we're coming up to Easter.
Gotcha.
So I'm going back to Cyprus for 3 months.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's like a dream. It's like everyone's dream. That's my retirement plan.
It's much hard. It's much harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd be really easy, and it's mentally quite hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so. Like, you want to be on holiday, but you've got to do work.
Yeah, that'll be a big issue. The beach being around you, and you just think, I've got to do work today, but you know what? I'll take some time out. The sun shines out. I'm just going to sunbathe, have a beer.
Yeah.
Nice.
So sorry, I stopped the conversation there dead completely. There.
Yeah, no, I'm like, wait, what was the topic? No. But yeah, when it comes to empathy and B2B, it just sounds like an oxymoron in a way. You know, who is the empathy for? Why are we thinking about this topic? I think ultimately, personally, the empathy is not for the person who's actually buying, it's for their end user. I think empathy is always for the ultimate end user of whatever the product or service it is. Because
not sure I agree with that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've got to think about that because I'm thinking in B2B.
Yeah.
And
but the gamut of products and services is so wide. So it depends what we're talking like. So if we're talking about, I don't know, some SaaS technology, then that is about how easy it is to use and how much you're improving somebody's life. But if it's a plastic bottle, so like one of my clients, they provide plastic bottles for like toiletries to go in. So how empathetic can you be over plastic bottles? Like, quite often that comes down to the price and buying in bulk, and you get a good service. But I really like that what you were saying earlier about the.
Sorry, it's to fix. Sorry to cut there. That plastic bottle is for a purpose, and it's for a purpose that they'll get, but buying a holiday or buying a car or something else from that, even if it's B2C, it's different when it comes to different companies. So that's fixing a need and a want, I guess, for that plastic bottle. So there's a big marketplace. They'll buy bulk, I guess, of that as well. If I'm understand this correctly as well.
I think the empathy still comes in even for plastic bottles, because again, if they're, especially if they're buying, you know, quantities, the spec has to be fit for purpose, right?
Kind of
So
goes back to what you were saying about trust,
right,
and not wanting to be the person that lets the company down by buying the bottles that crack or split
yeah,
or
or
leak
leak or whatever. Exactly. You don't want to be known as that person, do you? And I think, you know, moving that whole thing forward. You know, when they say about, you know, any purchase is an emotional purchase, right? Which we post rationalize logically. I think that's still the case, even if we're talking about B2B. Because even if you're dealing with B2B, even if you've got multiple stakeholders, they are not making pragmatic, rational decisions as to who they're going with. Because if they did, you wouldn't need to do any marketing. You would just need to give them a bunch of bullet points and they would form their buying decision based on that. But you don't, because they buy from their heart. We all buy from their heart, right?
It is about
And
relationship.
it is about relationships, and it's about, you know, the tone of voice, the value articulation, the positioning, the messaging, the whole, you know, the whole nine yards. It's about all of that. Because if a B2B purchaser was actually doing it pragmatically, rationally, they would look at the entire sector, the entire category, everybody within that category, and they would create some huge big mother of all matrices with little dots on, you know, particular feature sets and comparing everything else. But nobody does that. You know, if you were looking at a CRM, are you going to tell me you're going to look at like 597 CRMs and find out the best one? Of course not. You're going to look at the top 5 maximum. Maybe there'll be one outlier because a friend of a friend said you should look at this one because it's really good. It's not generally the, you know, it's not the one that everybody goes with, but I reckon you should take a look. Maybe you'll get one of those. Otherwise, anybody else that's not in that category set gets ignored.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, the way that corporate, let's just put that evil word out there, but like the way that corporate thinks of things is always to cover their asses. You know,
Yes.
there's liability, there's jobs, you know,
Politics.
yeah, politics, you know, when you're responsible for a lot of people, sometimes the decisions that are made are not because you like those people, but because how you're going to be seen as a manager or a leader, which are obviously also two different things. And rarely are they the same. You know, the culture comes from the top. If you're in a toxic environment where all they care about is, you know, the next corporate golf trip and how they're going to look in their corporate office and blah, blah, blah. Is their company growing? Is it growing as fast as they could be because they're looking at the right numbers? No. You know, there's just so many different facets to it. Some companies probably get it right, but most get it wrong, at least to start, and then they learn, you know, and then they get better, hopefully. And that's part of our job, I think, as marketers, because marketing touches all different aspects of a business. There's internal marketing and there's external marketing. There's company culture marketing, you know, there's HR marketing, there's operations marketing. It's all marketing. You know, the fact that I go and buy a gallon of iced tea and it's filled all the way to the top so that when I open it, it spills out, you know, I find that annoying, but that's marketing. It's they fill it to the top so that you can't say, oh, I bought this thing and it's half empty. You know what I mean?
It's the extra fries in Five Guys.
Right. It's spilling out all over the place.
Yes,
You
your
know,
fries.
but
If you go Five Guys, right, and you order a portion of fries,
Yeah.
you get the portion of fries and they put an extra scoop of fries in a bag.
I didn't know that.
costs some pennies,
Right.
but everybody's got a good story. The Five Guys story.
Extra service. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, McDonald's stopped handing out, not that I go to McDonald's, but they stopped handing out handfuls of ketchup packets. So now you have to ask for ketchup.
You have to
because-
buy them.
Right. And you get one.
Really? Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with this? But yeah, I
I
mean,
don't go to Burger King often, but I went to Burger King a few weeks back. I just needed one, right, on the way home. And I asked for some extra, like, chili sauce. And they went, that's an extra 50 pence, please. I went, what? You got to pay for it. So it was like 25 pence for like the little tubs. I used to get that for free. No, we've started charging now.
well, they must have done some kind of analysis and figured out that, either you take it as it comes or you want extra, you got to pay for it because we were losing so much money on XYZ, I mean, I used to work for a Medicare Advantage plan, over in the UK. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but over here, when you get to a certain age, you get what's called Medicare. We don't have universal health care unless you're a senior. And even then, you don't get all the services that you probably need.
Wow.
It depends. So basically an advantage plan is these companies take over your healthcare and they get paid by Medicare, and then they decide what benefits you get. So every year they have these actuaries or auditors that come in and evaluate the plan and go, are we going to include, transportation to the doctor this year? Or no, that wasn't very profitable. Now they're just gonna have to get there on their own. You know what I mean? So is that empathetic? No. Is it empathetic to their bottom line? Yes.
That's what I was going to say about the 25p chili sauces. It's not because they're losing money. It's because they need to post growth of profits year on year to keep shareholders happy.
Yeah.
And what
There's
you're outlining.
that, but there's also like the price of a meal. They can't put the price of the meal up so much. So I worked in a confectionery company, and like when you go to the pound shop, like you have to be able to buy a multi-pack for £1. And the only way they could do it was to take a roll out or a bar out. So you'll have noticed you used to get like four, or make it smaller. But it was like, so taking the sauce out, it means that your burger, your chips, and your drink, we can charge the same price for that because nobody wants to pay more for that. There's like a bar, isn't there?
Here's a thing for you to think about. I was playing golf on Tuesday with a couple of chaps from Tunnocks, the confectionery for the Tunnocks tea cakes and this and the other. And it was a really interesting, you've just touched on something there, Louise, which is the conversation I had around the golf course with chatting. They make millions every week, and they go out to Australia, a little bit in the States, and across the whole of the UK and Scotland. So they talked about the size of chocolate bars, right? So if you look at like the Snickers and everything else, they reduced the size of their chocolate bars, but charging more money. And Tunnocks have kept the size exactly the same and haven't changed that for nearly over 100 years. They kept it exactly the same size, and they kept the exact same quality of chocolate that they're using because the customers enjoy it. And
I think
they're a cash-rich company. Sorry, go on. Sorry, Jay.
No, I was just sorry to interrupt. I said I think they can do that, and this, no disrespect to Tunnocks, because they are a specialist chocolate, right?
Yeah.
If it was Cadbury's Dairy Milk, right?
Yeah.
I think Cadbury's Dairy Milk did do it, didn't they? They sort of resized their bars and everything else.
Yeah.
Right? I think because the Tunnocks customer is going to buy Tunnocks pretty much no matter what. So their level of expectation is set in advance of the actual value exchange.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like I'm showing my age here now, right? I'm sorry, Kim. I don't know if excluding you here, but the other three Brits, right? Have you seen the size of a Curly Whirly now?
Oh, mate, they're smaller. That's just wrong.
It's like that wide.
Sorry, no, that's wrong. That's yeah. It used to be like that.
Wagon wheels, right? Wagon
wheels were like ginormous
size of plates, right? When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right? They're like Jaffa cakes now. It was horrendous.
I'll be right back. You continue the conversation, but I'm going to go do something to show you guys something that
Sorry,
happens here in America. Hold on. Keep going.
okay, you're gonna go and get something to eat
Gonna
now.
get a
Okay.
Hershey bars now. You see,
Yeah.
get Hershey's.
No, sorry. Wait till I close that door. Hershey is not chocolate. Have you tasted
No,
Hershey?
no.
It's
I
fucking
had
pig vomit. That
Hershey's in
shit.
Boston, in
Absolute
Pawtucket,
disgusting shit.
and I was
Oh,
out and about.
God.
I worked for a company called Colette in Providence, and there was a night we went to the mall. Right, it's my first experience at the mall. And they went, "You got to try Hershey's." I went, "Oh, brand new, okay." I took one piece of Hershey's, and I was like, "No, that's just wrong. That's wrong in many levels." Thank God they didn't bring Hershey's out.
Okay.
Thin
So,
mints. Okay,
mints.
Girl Scouts.
yeah. So I don't remember when the price was $3, but now it's $5. And then when you open it, you get 2 sleeves.
Careful, when you open it up, you've got to start eating them.
Well, let's keep it closed then. Look at
Wow.
that.
Oh my
And
goodness me.
it's because it's too expensive to change all the equipment
Packaging.
for printing for the box. Yeah. And you know, if you think about like Mars bars and Snickers, they used to get like a giant one, and then you got like 2. You get 2 in the packet, and then like fun size has become like standard size.
Yeah.
Because
But
they
this
have to change the machine.
Right.
And then you're saying once you get in the packet, there's less.
And then so what happens is so this is just girl math, right? Girl Scout cookie math. So this used to be half the packet where this finger is right here. So I used to be able to have like half of it and then another time have the other half. But now I'm like, well, it's only a few more cookies. So now I'll eat the whole thing. And then so this gets me through 2 days instead of 4 days. And then I'm like, well, I can't just buy 2 boxes. Now I got to buy 4 boxes.
Yeah.
And now they're getting $20 instead of $6.
Very good business thinking, those Scout girls, by the way. Very, very clever.
And those kids don't even get to keep the money.
No, they're not.
It just goes back to the organization to do whatever they do. And I asked my daughter if she wanted to join the Girl Scouts, and she was like, no, because then I have to sell the cookies. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I have to be there with you while you sell the cookies. So she'd rather do other stuff that she can actually benefit from. And then I go and buy.
Aren't they incentivized? They're like the ones who sell most, they get a badge or something.
I can make her a badge. I'm in marketing. I can just be like,
because I mean that is a microcosm of the of 99% of sales environments in companies today, isn't it?
Yeah. Badges.
Yeah.
It is Glenn, Gary, Glenn Ross. It is always be closing.
Always be closing.
Sign.
You know, that was drilled into me when I was in
gentlemen.
the travel industry. That was drilled into me from the American companies. All due respect, Kimberly, they did always be closing. And we had a band in our company called the Closers.
Wow.
And it says every day be closing. But just on another note about chocolate wise, right? You talk about like the size wise and the way that changes. So from that conversation on Tuesday, here's the extra kicker. So this year, cocoa in itself, chocolate, is increasing in price because there's such a demand for it. So there's going to be a massive change on chocolate prices in the next 2 to 3 months. They'll increase by about $1, $1.50, or £1 on chocolate bars.
Wow.
So it's going to go up because of the demand on cocoa butter. So the sizes wise will be reduced again, probably, and they'll have a higher threshold of profit margin that comes back from it.
Wow. Well, my daughter's going to be out of luck.
Can you just record that so I can tell my wife the reason why I'm buying like stocking up of boxes and boxes of, yeah.
That's what I heard. It's gonna. I don't know how much it'll change by, but it'll adjust over the next few months, really. So yeah.
The other one that pisses me off are crisps or potato chips, Kim.
I know. My husband's British. I get the lingo. I get
it. Hang on. That's another soapbox to get on top of that, G, by the way, right? I got a pack of Doritos the other day, right? Who have a fajitas on a Thursday night, right? And I was shocked and stunned by, you buy it, you think empathy, I really fancy that bag, or get that, go with the fajitas and this and the other. And you open the bag up, the bag's like that, and literally got that many crisps in it.
It's 30% air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bought. Did we not talk about the other day with bought air? Was it not me and you were speaking the other day about there was somebody else they charge you for air at the shops now to put air in your tires?
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
they
have
do
to,
that here
Yeah.
you
now
have to
too.
buy air. You have to
Yes.
buy literally pressured air to go in your
Exactly.
car.
And then, yeah, what, and like, when we buy water bottles, those little water bottle, we're not buying water, we're buying plastic. We can get water and put it through a filter into these, aluminum,
Yeah.
Aluminium, Kim, aluminium. You said you knew Brit.
yeah, I know it, doesn't mean I have to comply.
Aluminium.
Okay.
Is that aluminium?
Three against one. I'm sorry, we win. That's democracy for you.
I know, what happened to Tommy? Tommy was here and then he left.
Tommy's here, but he's not. He's there. He's there, but he isn't. But he isn't. He's there. He's there. He's somewhere
Tommy's
there.
got technical issues. So, but yeah, I mean, it's really interesting when you really think about why we're buying the things that we're buying, whether it's B2B or B2C. You look at it and then you realize, okay, why, why things are so messed up in the world, why we're so unhealthy, because we're making these emotional dopamine triggering decisions not based on anything that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And whose fault is that? Sometimes it's ours because we're the marketers, because we tell you that you need these things.
Yeah.
So, what is the role of empathy? Are we taking advantage of it, or are we part of the problem, or could we be part of the solution? You know what I mean? That's a bigger
Our job is to influence a purchasing decision. That can be positive or it can be negative.
right. Exactly.
Sometimes
Yeah.
a negative one will still turn into a positive in marketing. I've seen that happen sometimes.
Sometimes, but I think it depends what we're talking about. I mean, certainly for elections, US and UK, definitely, we don't go down that path.
Oh, don't go down that road. What's happening in the States at the minute? Like, that just blows my mind.
UK's hopping a skip away, to be honestly. Come on, what's going on there? Good
Well,
God.
how about this? How about I stop the recording and we
2016. I'm
start talking
sorry,
about
you
that?
just lost the planet.
We could go on for hours, Kimberly, on that one there.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes, we can.
man. I think just wipe the floor, start again.